And we'll move on to the affordable housing initiatives.
My name is Janae Graham. I'm the Senior Manager of Energy Advocacy here at Impact Community Action. I happened upon Impact during my time when I was graduating from Ohio State. I went to a couple of different agencies looking for like rental assistance with my utilities and things like that, and happened upon Impact. And I had the most understanding and wonderful intake person.
I'm Bo Chilton, CEO of Impact Community Action. During this pandemic, our focus has been on the 3 Ps: people, partnerships, and programs. We often talk about being in partnership with the people that we serve, but we could not do what we do without the support that you all provided. With support from Franklin County alone, we've distributed almost $11 million to date and have helped 6,500 people stay safe in their home.
Franklin County continues the fight to end homelessness by allocating Community Development Block Grant and Home Program funds to a variety of affordable housing programs and activities. The funds are leveraged through a network of trusted partners such as Columbus Housing Network and Homeport. Since 2020, Franklin County has spent over $9 million in CDBG and home funds on a variety of activities, including the construction of new homes for low-income families, such as 3 newly built homes in Franklin and Prairie Townships for purchase, and Homeport's down payment assistance program, which has been in high demand.
The Magnet Fund program provides gap financing for development of affordable housing projects that receive 4% low-income housing tax credits. To date, the county has made a commitment to support 21 projects for a total of $24.6 million in funding that will generate approximately $569 million in capital investment and a total of 2,142 affordable housing units throughout Franklin County's high-growth transit corridors.
My name is Jonathan McKay, and I'm the Vice President of Development for Woda Cooper Companies, Inc. What does the Magnet Fund program mean to Woda? Well, it means that we can ensure that everyone has a high-quality, affordable housing unit to call home.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Director Jim Schimmer, and I'm happy to be here today along with a panel of experts to give you this budget presentation for homeless and affordable housing. In May of 2019, spurred on by the Franklin County's Rise Together Blueprint, Poverty Blueprint for Reducing Poverty, the Economic Development and Planning Department was challenged by the Board of Commissioners to provide new public sector initiatives to help Franklin County's growing need for affordable housing. Subsequently, the department published the Affordable Housing Implementation Framework to make our recommendations. One of those recommendations was the development of the Franklin County Magnet Fund. As you heard on the video, through the use of increased conveyance fees, the commissioners dedicated those funds to affordable housing, which generates approximately $4.1 million a year, and which is the primary source of funding for the Magnet Fund. When EDP launched the fund, the county administration set a goal of creating 2,050 units of housing over the next 10 years. Happily, I can say today that Franklin County has met and exceeded that goal in committed units in just 3 years. Additionally, $2.4 million of the conveyance fee went towards the creation of the Central Ohio Community Land Trust. The Land Trust works with developers to provide newly constructed homes on lots owned by the land bank, where the Land Trust holds the land in perpetuity and provides homes for purchase through a 99-year land lease. To date, the Land Trust has built and sold 14 new homes, with 11 more scheduled for this year. Conveyance fees are also used to support the work of the Community Shelter Board to help end homelessness in Franklin County. Additionally, the Affordable Housing Trust is the beneficiary of the Commissioner's innovative use of these conveyance fees. Joining us today on our panel is Lark Mallory, who is the President and CEO from the Affordable Housing Trust, to talk about a new program that she and her organization have launched to assist new and aspiring affordable housing developers. Lark?
Thank you. Thank you, County Commissioners, for having me here today. Director Schimmer, do you also want me to share AHT's general numbers, or do you just want the EDAP numbers?
Lark, I know that one, you're very proud of your numbers on AHT. So why don't you share both? Can you do both of those?
I sure can. Thank you. This year, so from January through the end of October, we will have loaned out over $68 million from our Housing Action Fund and from our general AHT dollars. Those funds will contribute an additional 1,600 units to our marketplace. And that is we've tripled our business this year. Typically, we average around 24 million in loans on an annual basis. This year, as I said, we're closer to 70 million in loans. We are also, for the first time ever, we've received funding from the federal CDFI fund. We've used those dollars to address what we've all seen in terms of rising construction costs. We are being told by some developers that projects just can't come to fruition without those soft dollars. So we will have deployed almost 2 million in soft dollars to developers to address some of the rising costs. That is our general AHT and Housing Action Fund overview. With respect to our Emerging Developers Accelerator program, we started those classes in September. It is a 6-month classroom program plus access to capital at the end. We did not expect to receive any projects until we did reach the end of a classroom session, but I am happy to report that we have funded 2 projects thus far, and one of those projects includes housing for individuals who have been involved with the criminal justice system. We expect to take another project to our board for approval in September, and that will produce an additional 15 units through the Emerging Developers Accelerator program. Happy to entertain any questions about anything that we're doing currently.
Thank you, Lark. I'm going to ask that we go ahead and hold our questions right to the end and kind of move through our presentation. We can talk as a panel and answer questions at that particular point in time, and I think that'll work out great. Commissioners, I'm pleased to follow Lark because of her innovation in this particular area. We have done a number of different things that need to be done to move this particular important issue forward. Additionally, we have been engaged directly in the emergency rental assistance program and the strength of the partnerships behind it. As you saw, Bo Chilton talked about his work with Impact, but the funding for the continuation of the emergency rental assistance program is made possible by the American Rescue Plan. We appreciate that President Biden and the congressional leadership heeding the call from Franklin County and communities across the country that have seen the economic consequences of the COVID pandemic and how they were threatening housing stability for so many of our neighbors. We've seen the magnitude of that reality as we've administered this program over the last several years. Franklin County received approximately $13 million in the first round of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, now known as ERA-1, and 100% of that amount has been distributed to eligible Franklin County households as of September 30th. As required by the U.S. Department of Treasury, we have also applied for and received an additional $10 million from the state of Ohio's unspent ERA-1 funds, which will allow us to continue helping Franklin County's households through the Treasury's program, through the Treasury's December 30th deadline on this particular program. Eligible households under both our initial allocation and additional funds from the state under ERA-1 are those with folks that have an income at or below 80% of the median income, are at risk at experiencing homelessness or housing instability, and with one or more individuals in the household experiencing financial hardships due directly or indirectly to COVID-19 pandemic items. Over 4,600 households have been stabilized with the assistance of the ERA program. But as you know, economic challenges in our community still persist. The second round of this program, known as ERA2, was authorized by the American Rescue Plan and additionally allocated $10.3 million to Franklin County to continue providing rental assistance to eligible households through 2024. As our last report to the Treasury at the end of September, we have distributed nearly $5.8 million of ERA funding to help stabilize another 1,900 households. Looking ahead to 2023, we know that the need for these resources hasn't slowed in Franklin County. We've taken the proactive step of requesting an additional ERA2 funds from the Treasury, which they are making available to applicants from a pool of reallocated funds from communities across the country that did not spend down their initial allocations. This program has required a strong network of partners, and we're really grateful that the commissioners have given staff the flexibility in contracting with a number of providers, both ones with large-scale reach, such as our own Department of Jobs and Family Services, the Impact Community Action Group, and the Columbus Urban League, as well as providers who have a more targeted outreach, such as Action for Children, for child care workers, Columbus State Community College for students, and the Community Refugee and Immigrant Services, also known as CRIS, for immigrants and refugees, and the Columbus Foundation of Settlements for Seniors. These partnerships have scaled their operations significantly to help us administer these programs. While existing reach and familiarity with these organizations among our residents has helped, we are grateful the commissioners took that extra step to ensure residents know how and where to find these resources as we move forward. Programs such as Rental614.com, which is an online hub for residents to easily navigate and learn about rent assistance from all of the ERA providers I have mentioned to you. You also gave us the flexibility to swap ERA 1 and 2 funds among our providers as needed to meet the Treasury's strict program requirements and deadlines, thereby ensuring these resources remain available where they're needed most in our community. We are grateful for the continued ability to meet our residents' most pressing needs through the ERA program, and are particularly proud of our strategy for doing so in coordination with the City of Columbus. In fact, this coordination, which is critical, is held up recently in the U.S. Treasury's ERA Resource Hub as a promising practice for other communities to consider for building housing stability infrastructure. Most importantly, however, over 6,500 Franklin County households have been stabilized in a time where eviction and homelessness could have disrupted and quite literally uprooted many lives for years to come if it weren't for this program. I now have the opportunity to turn the presentation over to Buck Bramlish, the Executive Director of Franklin County's Veterans Service Administration, to help discuss Franklin County's homeless and affordable program for veterans. Mr. Bramlish.
Thank you, Jim, very much, and good afternoon, commissioners. I am Buck Bramlish, Executive Director of the Veterans Service Commission, here today to discuss some of our efforts to provide assistance to veterans in need and answer any questions you may have. There are approximately 61,000 Franklin County residents who are veterans. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau 2020 American Community Survey, 13.2% of the veteran population is living in poverty. And I would add, this number expands rapidly when considering veteran dependents, widows, and widowers that we also endeavor to assist. Ohio Revised Code Title 39 allows our agency to provide many much needed services to our veterans and their dependents. The history of our agency goes all the way back to the end of the Civil War and Ohio's desire to provide relief and comfort to veterans, their widows, and their orphans. We are an agency staffed by veterans and their families, focused on providing relief to veterans and their immediate families who are struggling, often providing financial assistance while at the same time assisting veterans access VA benefits that they have earned. All we do is in the hope of providing relief for short-term issues and improving the quality of life of Franklin County veterans. In many cases, our programs provide time and space for our partners' long-term efforts, assisting veterans overcome barriers, improve health, and build resilience. Some of these partners include Veterans Affairs Social Work Team at the Columbus VA Medical Center, Southeast Healthcare, Lutheran Social Services, Volunteers of America, Ohio Means Jobs, Office on Aging, Franklin County Jobs and Family Services, Franklin County Municipal Court Specialized Docket for Veterans, and the Franklin County Sheriff's Veterans Jail Pod, just to name a few. Our agency provides assistance to our veteran community in a few different ways. I call them our core competencies. This includes financial assistance, medical transportation, and a pathway for veterans to access veterans benefits, most commonly through the VA. We offer emergency financial assistance on a need basis. This process for items such as rent, mortgage, utilities, even car repairs. We also have programs that eligible veterans, and in many cases, their spouses, widow or widowers, can take advantage of, like dental care, eye exam and glasses, holiday meal cards, and winter clothing programs. We assist veterans filing for VA claims, often over 1,000 times a year, serving both veterans that are recently out of service all the way through veterans who've been out for many years, but are having issues that may have stemmed from their service. Finally, we have a medical transportation program that any eligible veteran, spouse, widow, or widower can sign up for that provides home to medical appointment and back transportation, either by taxi, bus, or even a gas voucher, which allows them to drive themselves to their appointment. These appointments range from pre-surgery evaluations to cancer treatments. Looking back, 2019 was a record-setting year for the support we provided the veteran community. Through the pandemic, we continued to provide critical assistance, especially temporary food assistance. And while we may have seen a decrease in some of our overall numbers, this support was vital to keep people housed and food on the table. We are working hard to understand what impact the current economy is having on our veterans and have adjusted our programs to help mitigate these challenges as best we can. In 2021, we saw over 3,700 unique veterans, almost 13,000 times, providing support such as housing, utilities, and food vouchers. Of the total 3,188 immediate financial assistance applications taken, we provided 97% of these applicants some level of assistance. In 2021, over 500 veterans were provided over 800,000 in rent or mortgage assistance, and we are tracking similar support for 2022. In 2021, 347 veterans were provided just over 300,000 in utility support. In 2022, 342 veterans have been provided 214,000 in utility support thus far this year. 2021, 1,676 veterans were provided 460,000 in food assistance, or a weekly average of $8,900. In 2022, so far this year, we've assisted 2,300 veterans, provided over 760,000 in food assistance through October, and our weekly average of applications served is over $17,000 a week. We have seen a surge in food assistance requests and expect this to continue into 2023. We also expect our requests for rent and utilities to steadily increase over the next 2 years, in part due to the economic reality and the expiration of some of the federal emergency assistance, as previously spoken, ER1 dollars, which expire this year, which have been an available additional resource for veterans struggling with rent. As stated, there are ERA2 funds still available, and they may continue to provide rent resources to our community. As we reach the end of 2022, our estimates are trending back towards our 2019 numbers. In many cases, we are assisting veterans who have been in a poverty cycle for many years. While we are proud that we provide financial assistance to over 95% of those eligible veterans and dependents who apply, we want to go further to try to enable a better future. 3 years ago, we added a financial coach to our team who is also a veterans benefit specialist. This person will work through basic budgeting issues with our veterans and provide partner referrals when the financial situation requires. This leads to our partner programs, organizations who often provide support or solutions to the underlying issues that challenge our veterans. These heroes, often social workers, medical professionals, and employment specialists, tackle these hard issues while we keep the veterans housed, warm, and fed. It just simply takes time to assist those in the toughest of situations, often years, and we have and continue to develop partners to assist our veterans. Considering the housing challenge in Central Ohio, two key partners we work with consistently include the VA and the Community Shelter Board. We participate in discussions and work groups as we try to increase veteran housing. Whether it be additional HUD-VASH vouchers or new housing developments, we find ways to support these initiatives. We are in constant communication with the VA HUD-VASH program leadership to support veterans enrolled in this housing programs. VASH, Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing, provides rental assistance, case management, and clinical services. We think of this as permanent supportive housing. We are working with the VA as they seek voucher expansion in Central Ohio to include for proposed new developments within Franklin County. Some of these vouchers may be project-based, which remain with the housing unit as veterans transition in or out of the unit. To summarize, there are no easy solutions for the challenges our vulnerable populations are facing considering housing. Franklin County Rise Together Blueprint defines the challenges and housing shortages our veterans and our citizens are facing. Our agency will continue to encourage construction and rehabilitation of housing solutions, and within our mission and the Ohio Revised Code 5901, which guides us, provide financial assistance to our veteran population. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Director Bramlish. Appreciate that very much. I have one last thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is the county's CDBG role. Franklin County, as you know, has led the way in the fight against homelessness by providing innovative programming to meet affordable housing and preservation needs. As identified in our 2020 and 2024 consolidated plan as a priority need, affordable housing preservation and development has been and will continue to be in the forefront of EDP's funding discussions. Preserving affordable housing can take a number of different forms, from educating Franklin County residents on fair housing and housing counseling, providing down payment assistance to first-time home buyers, and providing home repair services. Franklin County is an entitled community that receives approximately $2 million a year in CDB allocations. As cost and needs continue to rise, we have continually increased our funding to meet our annual goals and accommodate our residents. In 2020, we were awarded approximately $2 million in CDBG, and 1.225 of those dollars, approximately $1,225,000, 60% went towards affordable housing activities. An additional $611,000 of COVID CDBG dollars went towards affordable housing as well. In 2021, we received approximately $2,097,000 in CDBG, and of that funding, approximately $1.3 million went to affordable housing activities. In 2023, we are projecting to allocate $1.37 million, or 66.7% of our allocation to affordable housing efforts. The remainder of our most recent CDB allocation, approximately 33%, will go towards homeless prevention and outreach, public services, and administration for planning. In 2023, we look forward to the ability to convene the Community Development Advisory Board, or known as CDAB, which will consist of 9 to 12 community members, ranging from Franklin County CDBG awardees to interested residents, and helping provide transparency, which we consider to be a critical part of this, as well as input from our residents on how affordable housing and homeless prevention programs should be administered and function. Additionally, Franklin County leverages home funds to develop affordable housing units specifically for seniors and low-income residents. 32 one-bedroom units are currently being built for senior residents in Whitehall, and 3 units at scattered site locations throughout are being under construction throughout the county at this particular point in time. Commissioners, just quick summarizing this activity today so you can get to questions for our panel members. We have been working diligently to make sure that everyone who needs a home and a a roof over their head will have one in our community. It's a critical component part of what you have committed to us in your direction, and we are trying to instill that thought into our activity. So with that, I guess I'd ask our panel members, Lark Mallory and Buck Bramlish, to come on screen for any questions that you may have, commissioners.
Thank you, Director, and I want to thank everyone for the presentation. It's quite a bit to absorb and then come back and ask questions, quite honestly. However, I want to start with the Lark Mallory and Affordable Housing Trust. One, with those funds, we had talked originally about the use of those funds to, and it's actually this A and B question. The B part goes to you, Director. But we talked about using those funds to leverage the funds so that there's additional resources to go into that project. So if an emerging developer comes into play and they're able to put $1 million on the table, we had the ability to double it so that we leveraged it. We use it as leveraged. So can you talk about the funds in that way? And then I'd say the same thing to you, Director. What are we doing to ensure those funds that we're working with the various communities within Franklin County, various municipalities, so that we can leverage our funds so that they have a greater impact and they're not just isolated on any particular project for any one developer. I mean, it should be that, Franklin County is there, the city of Whitehall is there, the city of Dublin is there, whatever, as part of a project together, so that they're encouraged to invest in those projects all around Central Ohio.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyce. Yes, we are using those funds as additional leverage, and we did not, and this is for the first $1 million. We did not put those funds directly into our existing loan pool. Of the 2 projects that we've approved thus far, in addition to their additional equity, so the developers are required to put in 5%, and then we've used the funding from the county to match that 5%. But in addition, we also loaned over $784,000 from our loan pool to those projects. We expect in December, thus far, we've received a request from one additional emerging developers cohort member, and that match will be right around $200,000 for an additional almost 20 units. And if that project is approved by our board, like I say, about $215,000 in match, and we will loan $2.1 million on the project from our loan pool.
And Commissioner Boyce, just getting to your question too. I think one of the things that we have talked about, and in fact, even this week, had conversations about, is how the Magnet Fund needs to evolve and how it needs to change a little bit more. I think your point specifically in this question is a good one, in that how do we leverage other communities' investment into affordable housing, as opposed to being the only major funding source besides the private sector in some of the communities that we're working in. So I don't have a specific answer for you on this one, but I will tell you that I do think, in talking with Commissioner Crawley and certainly Commissioner O'Grady earlier this week when we were looking at another project, the fund needs to change a little bit, and we need to be understanding that we have a role in trying to promote our own activities. For example, the idea of being able to purchase and have folks that are coming out of programs like Lark's program, for example, to have that opportunity somewhere in the near future to be able to build a project through the Magnet Fund, for example. How we use our dollars is critical in these cases, and the development community, while they're appreciative of what we do, I think also understand that we are going to try and raise the bar a little bit every year so that we get continually really good, solid projects. As you know, these projects have been built on transit corridors, and we followed MORPS's lead on some of that. But I will commit to you that I think in 2023, we should be thinking about how the program can get even better and our goals raised.
May I add one additional thing? And that's that last week, OFA issued the awards for its bond gap funding. We expect to see a large demand for both your capital magnet fund and some of our soft dollars to address the gaps that we're seeing with rising construction costs. OFA approved 8 projects that are expected to bring on almost 1,000 additional units, and that's across the AMI spectrum. But unless the developers have a way of funding those gaps that have been caused by rising costs, then I don't know if these projects will come online.
Commissioner, I would like to just add from our agency, and Director Schimmer mentioned about awareness and marketing. One of the reasons we wanted to talk about our program a little bit today was there are 2 advantages that developers may find if they choose to make part of their target audience veterans. One of those advantages is the desire for the VA right now to increase their HUD-VASH vouchers. Specifically, they're looking at project-based vouchers, which would provide an advantage to any tenants that would reside in those buildings. And the second is our agency, the great funds in our agency that go to use. If you have a mixed use, maybe partial veteran organization, and you have veterans that are struggling, that are trying to recover or improve their life, our rental assistance program targeted for veterans can keep them current as they go through programs to kind of help them and maybe with some of their long-term barriers and struggles. So there's just two reasons I think that veterans would be an important part of some of these projects. Thanks.
So if you don't have any other questions, I guess we will conclude our remarks. And I just really want to thank Lark and Buck for the time and energy they put into this presentation. And it's such a critically important topic that we can never stop talking about it. So thank you, commissioners. Really appreciate that.
I do have a comment. As you mentioned, we talked about it earlier this week, the change in or additional supports for the Magnet Fund or doing something different. But when it comes to our affordable housing goal, one thing that, I said, and I think my colleagues would agree, since we already hit our goal this year for the Magnet Fund the goal is 2,000 units over 10 years. We got 2,200 units. That we should have a pretty ambitious goal if moving forward. And I look forward to hearing what that goal is and how we can get there internally with our internal stakeholders, but then externally as well. So looking forward to hearing that in the new year, what our ambitious, innovative goal will be.
Absolutely. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, commissioners. And with that, that concludes today's budget hearings. Our next set of budget hearings are scheduled for tomorrow at 1 o'clock, where we will hear from the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board, Franklin County Children's Services, Human Resources, and Public Facilities Management. Thank you and see you all tomorrow.